Hi guys, so I am happy to be back. We're doing the colour series sort of family spotlight, and this is the Daniel Smith Indigo. So this is one of my faves. I put it in my top 12 most used watercolours list. I generally use lighter colours, so this is a really nice one for me to be able to deepen other colours with or deepen the palette with. And then the next one here is Daniel Smith Kyanite. So this is a natural pigment from a kyanite stone. So it's a really amazing one. It has a gorgeous sparkle in it. It's a little bit more subdued than the indigo. So this next one is Daniel Smith Cobalt Blue. I ended up swatching out and several different sort of ultramarines and these kind of mid-tone blues, and the cobalt blue is the one that I went with. It's a little bit more it's less vibrant than the ultramarine, and I think it just sort of mixes into my palette better. The next one I'm swatching here is the Schmincke Cobalt Turquoise. So I really love this one, and you can see that when I do my palettes, I want at least a darker value, a mid-tone value, and a lighter value. So that would be indigo, cobalt, and then the cobalt turquoise. But I've also got the kyanite, and then I've got this one as well, which is the Daniel Smith Sleeping Beauty turquoise. So I really love this one, and I'm just showing you here. I think so you can see as well that you can just take one of the colours in your palette and you can just create a whole page of swatches and just trying out that colour, mixing it with things and testing it. I think I'm just looking for what we're going to work on today as well, but let's just go back to the Sleeping Beauty turquoise for a minute. It's a really beautiful colour. So Daniel Smith has a few colours that have more like a satin matte finish, I want to say, and Sleeping Beauty turquoise is one of them. Now you can get other colours like it, and it's definitely not a cobalt turquoise. So you can see here we're going to work on this egg today. This is the first time that I kind of tried glazing and creating these sort of layers, and I tried to create like a more of a 3D painting. So all of the little paintings we do in this series are really good to just try out like some different steps for how to improve your watercolors, and that's kind of why I've chosen them all. So you can see me just swatching out the egg here, but sketching it out. But what I was saying was, if you're looking for a really vibrant blue that can go into a powdery blue, then you want something more like the Schmincke Cobalt Turquoise. But if you're looking for sort of, it's kind of like the turquoise grey version, like a lavender grey. Like I'm always drawn to those kind of lavender greys, and this is more like a turquoise grey. So if you're looking for a brighter colour, it's going to be a more subdued colour, but it does feel really special to paint with. I really enjoy it. And that is actually the first colour that we're using here. So we've wet the entire egg, and then we are putting down a very pale wash of the Sleeping Beauty turquoise, and you can see that we're leaving the highlights. So in watercolour, we want to leave the highlights preserved and intact as much as possible. We can lift, and colours that are non-staining are a lot better for that, but we just like to try and preserve it as much as possible. You can see here that I'm going around the outside, and I'm being very delicate and careful just with the tip of my brush to make sure that the egg has a really nice solid outline. In a more realistic painting like this, the small details really matter, so I don't want to overwork the painting, so I'm not brushing it really hard. I'm just gently working with the very tip of my brush, just gently working that pigment into a more perfectly formed, egg shape. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is put a little bit of the cobalt blue into the shadow area. So when I did the last egg, I used Interference Blue by Daniel Smith, and I'm seeing this time if I can use different colours, like we can mix the cobalt turquoise with the pearl white and create a similar effect. And I actually really enjoyed, and also like I could probably have mixed the cobalt blue with the cobalt turquoise, but I'm just enjoying kind of using these colours as they are and doing less mixing for this series. And so say you were using one colour and you wanted to create a bit of a shadow, and we will do this I think a bit later in the video, but if you want to neutralise the blue, you can use an orange, you can use like a brown, like a burnt sienna or a Van Dyke brown or something like that, to create some of those shadows as well. So what I've mixed up here is the Kyanite and an ivory black. So I don't have this in this palette. It's a Magello ivory black. It's just really the only one I had, so I haven't really found a black that I'm attached to, so that's just the one I had and that's what I've been using. But when you mix the Kyanite with the ivory black, it goes this gorgeous sort of blue-black, but it's a very understated, it's a really pretty colour, and it's got a tiny bit of shimmer in it. So you can see there I lifted out some colour out of the shadow, and so the shadow doesn't have to be all one shade either. You know, you can create movement and depth within the shadow, so you don't just have to paint a black, you know, a blank, sort of a blanket colour on there. You can create a lot of different 3D effects just within the shadow. And then I also rounded out the edge really nicely like I did with the egg, so I do take a little bit more time here with that. Like some of my other paintings, you know, it's a little bit more quick or a different brush stroke, but these ones I'm trying to be a bit more precise. So next, what are we doing next? I'm just continuing to deepen up just the shadow around where the egg, where it meets the egg. So I want that really you know, darker, and I want that to really make the egg pop. Just deepening up that one little shadow area can determine how realistic it kind of looks on the page. Okay, so you can see I've done what I usually do and go from one part of the painting to another part while the other part's drying. So while the egg was drying, I went to the shadow. Now I'm coming back to the egg, and I'm going to continue to glaze the shadow areas of the egg. So what's interesting here is I put the cobalt blue on before the shadow area was dry, and you know, if you don't want any bleeding from one part to the other, you want to make sure that the shadow is completely dry or the egg's completely dry. But I did this and I didn't let the shadow fully dry, and I got a little bloom of the cobalt blue that sort of peeked into the, it sort of snuck into the shadow area. So I actually really enjoy how it turned out. It was a really pretty blue, but that's just one thing to be aware of. If you don't want something like that happening, then you want to wait for each part to dry. And then at this part was where I mixed up the cobalt turquoise with the pearl white, so we could get a glaze of that happening, a layer of that. Okay, so I'll just show you the little bloom I was talking about up close. And what we'll do now is we'll just let this dry, and then we will come back and put the final layers on. Okay, so you can see here that I'm getting some of the sedona, like a burnt sienna, and I'm mixing that with the cobalt blue to create like a shadow, kind of neutralizing it a little bit and making a shadow underneath the egg there. Okay, and once that's dry, we're going to get a smaller brush. So this is a detail brush. It's just a really small one. I'm not exactly sure what the brand or color is. It's just from a miniatures brush set off Amazon. But you just get, so I'm using French ochre here. You want a lighter brown or an ochre, and I'm just kind of picking some spots around the egg and creating these little markings like the spotty eggs. And now I'm doing the same thing with the Van Dyke brown. So I'm going back over some of the spots, I'm doing it near some of the spots, and I'm just creating a similar effect of where I think these little spots might look nice. And you can see how much this is adding to, how much like depth this is adding to the egg. And certainly if you wanted to and you had a bit more time, you could go through and let it dry a few more times and glaze it a few more times to get some more deepening of those shadow areas. But I think for the tutorial this is a good amount, and yeah, I really like the way these come out. So it's a nice way to try the colours and to blend them and to work on glazing technique. So it's a good one just to practice. So I had a couple of other videos planned for this week, but everything, and I've done the the videography, the video, I've recorded them, but I am having a hard time just getting the voiceovers done. So I might have one more video for you tomorrow that's just a paint with me, and then next week we'll work on the purple colour family. And so I already have that one recorded, and then after that will be browns and sort of neutrals and then golds. But I think before we do that, I just want to work on some paper, just look at some different paper and sketchbooks, and also make a sketchbook. So I want to create an art journal, not just a sketchbook, but somewhere where I can kind of use different mixed media, try different products and things. And I feel like the sketchbook isn't exactly the right place to do that, so that's something we might look at as well next week. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.